Okay.
Hi, Ron Smith, the Interim General Manager of the Rosamond Community Services District.
What is the purpose of the Purple Pipe Project?
Well, the Purple Pipe Project is where at our water treatment plant we create tertiary water, so it's reused water, and we use purple pipe to actually go out to water landscape like parks and the schools. So it saves drinking water because right now they're using drinking water for it. So we're treating water as a tertiary level, and then we're going to deliver it, and it's delivered in a purple pipe, so you know that's the difference between potable water. So that we've been working on the system for quite a while. It's going to the Lahontan Board in November 4th and 5th. And then once we're done with that, we have one more permit to get from Lahontan, which is the State Water Board, and then we can turn on the spigot and start selling it to customers.
How much water do you foresee the Purple Pipe Project to save?
Our treatment plant right now can produce around 336 acre-feet per year. And an acre-foot is around 326,000 gallons of water per year. So we're going to save quite a bit of water, but we're also going to make money for the district because we're going to be selling it also.
And how much money do you think that it'll save for the Rosamond district?
Well, it's going to save a certain amount of water, but what you're talking about is the construction projects that's on the agenda for tonight. The construction projects for the last budget was set that they would be putting it out for bid, and that gets expensive hiring contractors when in actuality we can do it in-house because that's what we do is lay pipe. So by doing the projects in-house, we have a purple pipe project for about $1.1 million this year, along with a $150,000 project that was budgeted, and then we have two purple pipe projects that we want to do next year. By doing it in-house and getting cheaper bids on materials, we're going to save probably over $2 million in the next 2 years for the district.
The Purple Pipe Project is not only expected to save Rosamond District water and money, but it's supposed to be that Rosamond will be a great contributor to the surrounding cities. Can you give me a little bit of information about that?
Well, we're going to be supplying tertiary water to other districts so they don't have to, other agencies like the school district, so they don't have to use potable water.
And can you talk about the will serve letters and development for Rosamond?
Yes, at this time, most agencies out here in the Antelope Valley were under legal adjudication on the water basin, and that means that in the future, Rosamond is only going to be able to pump a small percentage of the water that we pump now. That means we're going to have to buy water from outside sources. That's what's important about getting the tertiary pipe in, because now we're reusing that same water over and over again so that we can save water. But also when it comes to development coming in, either developing shopping center stuff, Starbucks or homes, there's no water to give them in the future. So when you give a development a will serve letter, it means that you're going to supply them X amount of water over perpetuity. And we can't do that right now. So we're working on some things to actually purchase water through the state project that the developer would pay for up front, and then that way we can have reliable water to provide them over the years. And that's what LA County is doing right now. That's what virtually everybody in the valley is going to have to do because there is no water in the future at this point.
The Rosamond News would just like to congratulate you and the Rosamond Community Services District on everything that you guys have succeeded so far. And we would like to say thank you on behalf of all of the community members.
Well, thank you. I mean, it is a team effort, and the board is doing a great job, and I have a great staff, and everybody's working hard to make it a success.
Thank you.
Mr. President, we would like to remove action item number C. Staff needs to do a little bit more work on it, and then we'll bring it back at number 10.
C? Which item was that?
That's action item 90.
9C. I think we could table that.
10C.
Well, I was going to recommend the table name, but that's fine. This is still.
We'll bring it back once we get the work done.
That's what we should. Go ahead.
This time we're going to move to item 7, public comments. Anyone in the audience have anything they would like to address to the board? Want to sit up at the podium, please?
Good evening, Glenn Vincent. I'm a resident of Rosamond. I would like to take this time by finally speaking to quote to our Board of Directors, Section 54950 of the Government Code of the State of California, which is part of the chapter commonly known here in the state as the Ralph M. Brown Act. Quote, in enacting this chapter, the legislature finds and declares that the public commissions, boards, and councils, and the other public agencies in this state exist to aid in the conduct of the people's business. It is the intent of the law that their actions be taken openly and that their deliberations be conducted openly. The people of the state do not yield their sovereignty to the agencies which serve them. The people, in delegating authority, do not give their public servants the right to decide what is good for the people to know and what is not good for them to know. The people insist on remaining informed so that they may retain control over the instruments they have created, unquote. I also like to quote for the record from the same government code, section 54954.3, subsection C, to the Board of Directors. Quote, the legislative body of a local agency shall not prohibit public criticism of the policies, procedures, programs, or services of the agency, or of the acts or omissions of the legislative body. Nothing in the subdivision shall confer any privilege or protection for expression beyond that otherwise provided by law, unquote. I would also like to quote to our board, section 54959 of the same government code, quote, each member of a legislative body who attends a meeting of that legislative body where action is taken in violation of any provision of this chapter and where the member intends to deprive the public of information to which the member knows or has reason to know the public is entitled under this chapter is guilty of a misdemeanor, unquote. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else that would like to address the board? Okay. We'll move to item 8, presentations. We'll move to item A, fourth quarter financial update by Brad Rockabrand, District Accountant.
Thank you, members of the board. In front of you, you have the fourth quarter financial status report. This is the annual status report from July 1st through June 30th, 2015. Report overview is first. What you see there, these numbers are now based on audited figures, based on unaudited figures throughout the year when we do the first, second, third quarter updates. The audit has been completed, and we used their numbers to prepare this report. The financial performance of the 12 months of the Rosamond Community Services District came in pretty strong. I'm pleased to report that we came in about 1/8% under budget, meaning that we had budgeted to gain about $979,000, and we gained about $971,000. So we did real well, as an overview. For the benefit of the audience, we've put the overview up above here, but I will read a majority of it in case you can't see it. This report also includes year-end accruals and audit adjustments, the most significant of which is the effect of GASB 68. I won't get into the details unless you'd like me to. The auditors will do that when they come and present the financial statements in our meeting in November. But it helped us defer part of our retirement costs into the future, reducing the current year cost that we incurred on our books. If you'll flip to the second page, the report's broken down by fund. This is the water fund. Can you shrink that a little bit so they you can see the whole thing, or are you just scrolling up and down? There we go, that's all that matters. Total water fund revenues came in at 83% of the expected. The two major variances were in the assessment fees and the connection charges. Charges for services fell short of expectations by 4%, while connection and installation charges allowed for 29%, which were less than anticipated development. The interest in miscellaneous income was at 638% due to an unanticipated contribution against labor for the hydrant installations at Well 9, the wastewater treatment plant. And interest income was also higher than expected due to a more strategic employment of the district's investment portfolio. Happily to report, the water expenses also fell below expectations at only 84% of budget. Salaries, wages, repairs, and outside services were higher than anticipated. Operating expenses such as utilities, business expenses, and general administrative, office supplies, and interest expense were also considerably under budget. This left the fund in a total deficit position of $57,350, which is $53,889 more than the original budget deficit of $3,461. I'll add in that behind your update is a 15-page document of every single line item in our budget and the actuals against it. And I won't get into that at this time either, but it is there for your reference and available with the packets in the back should the public choose to look at it and go through it. But what it does is it shows you line item by line item why salaries were over. In this particular fund, it was overtime. For salaries and wages, repairs, we had a considerable number of repairs due to the storm, unexpected things. Also outside services were higher than anticipated. And the detail is there for your perusing and leisure reading. I think people read accounting for leisure reading. Next page is the sewer funds. The sewer fund revenues came in at 96%. Permits and fees came in at 52%, connection charges at 17%, again due to lower than anticipated development. The interest and miscellaneous income were also higher. Sewer fund expenses were in line with our expectations. We came in at 103%. Depreciation has been reanalyzed. We've been talking about this all year. The wastewater treatment plant was brought online after the budget was prepared last year. We've reanalyzed that, and it'll be much more in line with expectations this year for the 15-16 year. The sewer fund generated a surplus of just over $1 million, and that represents a $236,000 variance between the budget and actual figures. So while it did create a surplus, it was less than we anticipated because of lower revenues and higher expenses. Next page, street lighting funds. In my world, we group these funds because they provide the same function. So the first page you have there is the two funds together, and then the two subsequent pages are each fund broken down individually. The street light analysis, again, has been broken up into the two funds for purposes of highlighting the difference in the fund activity. As a whole, the two funds generated a surplus of $29,508 for the year. Streetlight fund sustained a loss of $14,705, while the LLAD2 fund generated a surplus of $44,213. Total revenues are significantly higher than anticipated due to the lighting fees being placed onto the tax bill, while expenditures were more in line with expectations at 109%. The next page is Fund 3. This is the street lighting fund. Generated revenues of $80,601 and amount $7,635 over expectations. This was due mostly in part to the timing of collection fees and a higher rate of return on investments. Expenditures came in lower than expected at $95,306, generating a budget to actual variance of $19,997. This fund has been running in a deficit for over 5 years. Staff noticed earlier in the year that without significant cost management, this fund would run out of money again and repeat the borrowing cycles that have plagued this organization in recent years. The remainder of the year, every expenditure class was managed with this in mind, except office and employment expenses. This was due largely in part to the large legal costs incurred during the year related to lighting. Fund 4, next page, same thing, different lighting function. This generated revenues of $107,607 and amount $83,157 over expectations, due mostly in part to the higher rate of collection on the streetlight assessments. Expenditures came in correlatively higher because of the amount that we reallocated and reanalyzed that was going through, causing a deficit in Fund 3. We realized that some of those costs were being pushed through into Fund 3 and should have been collected in Fund 4 after the budget was prepared. So while we incurred 166% of expenses versus budget, we incurred 440% revenues, which was much higher than we had anticipated due to the collection methodology on the property tax bill. Again, the street lighting fund, many of the cost classes came in at or below expectations, except office and employment expenses due primarily, again, to legal costs associated with the street lighting function. The next page is the park funds. Again, in my world, we group Fund 5 and 51 because they provide the same service, but we break them out because they provide two different services. As a whole, the park funds are performing well above expectations as of June 30th. Total revenues are 106% of budget and expenditures are 75% of budget. In total, the park funds were budgeted to lose an aggregate amount of $212,162, but actually lost only $7,535, representing a budget to actual variance of $204,627. That is favorable to the district by that amount. Fund balance. Fund balance is a term used by accountants to discuss the fund's aggregate earnings and losses over several fiscal years, synonymous with retained earnings in the private sector. It is not to be confused with the amount of cash any particular fund may have or used in a given period of time. Fund balance after fourth quarter are both above and below expectations, as seen in the graph below and described in the previous pages. The water and sewer funds sustained losses, while the street lighting funds and the park funds generated a surplus for the year ended June 30th, 2015, when compared to the budget. When compared to the budget figures, the water and sewer funds sustained a loss during the fiscal year. However, the street lighting and park funds generated the surplus. In aggregate, the district fell short of fund balance predictions by $8,066, which is the total that we talked about on the front page. Annual fund balance were projected to decrease by $34,661 in the water fund, increase by $1.2 million in the sewer fund, decrease by $48,000 in the street lighting funds, and $212,000 in the park funds, as previously discussed. Cash. Cash sources and uses of each fund show on a real-time basis how the fund is performing in a given period of time. For the quarter ended June 30th, 2015, the district took in $524,095 more than it spent, broken down into the detail below. This report is unique because usually I only do quarters activity. This time I added in an annual activity. So below that you'll see for the year ended June 30th, the district took in $1,195.93 more than it spent, broken into the different functions. And with that, I'll entertain some questions, if you have any.
Well, on the last page there indicated we took in $2 million more in sewer. And how is it, we budgeted for that as well, though, is that right? That wasn't much of more than we actually predicted.
That's correct.
And then it says park spent $2 million more than it took in. Is that because they took out a loan, or are they promised to pay a loan? How did we get $2 million more in debt, or is that, how did the park spend $2 million, I guess?
A lot of it was just rearranging of money with the new loans. All of that has to flow through cash. So the sources and uses may not represent actual physical dollars going out the door, but an appropriation, it may include a reassignment. We had an inflow of money for the old loans when we refinanced, but then we put the new loans on the balance sheet as debt. So it came into cash as a forgiveness of the old loans, but did not go out of cash because we were amortizing that debt over the portion of the amortizable period.
So I mean, you said we actually spent, we spent the 212, we didn't even spend the 212, we spent less than 212 cash. We only spent 7,500, no, we spent
More than budgeted.
more than budget, okay.
Right.
On West Park Purple Pipe, you budgeted $1.2 million. On the 20th Street project, it was $150,000. There's two projects that we're looking at doing next year, Gaskell and 60th, which would bring purple and tertiary water out to some of the farmers, and that was $1.1 million. And then bringing Purple Pipe up to United Park so they can water the park up there, that's $368,500. With the adjusted cost of doing it in-house, West Park will only cost $414,000. 20th Street will be $58,000. Gaskell and 60th will be $319,000. and United will be $144,000. And that's a total savings in the next 2 years of approximately $1,883,500. This year we're saving almost $1 million that you previously budgeted. So that's cash that does not have to go out. But we actually estimate, we didn't put it in here, that we are actually going to save more money because when you put a contract out to bid, that contractor bids on materials, labor, everything to complete the project. And as we all know, that contractor is not getting the material retail, he's getting it wholesale and he's getting a discount on it. Now when we put out the bid on these projects, when we're going to do it in-house, we're going to be putting out a bid for materials over a period of time, and we're going to get that discounted on materials. So you can see these costs are actually probably going to go down, and we're actually going to save more money on that. So I think that's good news that at least almost $1 million this year, and more than $1 million next year, and that's in for the future. Any other projects that we're doing too, we're going to be saving money, and that's how we're going to be going forward on the budget and the projects. So I'll entertain any questions at this time.
What about the workforce that we have, the labor hours we've already committed?
Right, that would be
In increasing this, would it result in needing to more overtime or hiring somebody to do it?
no, and I've talked to John Houghton and his staff and everything. That's flexible, and they believe they can get those projects done in a timely manner and still be able to get done with the work that they need to do.
Do you think we need to hire some more part-time help to do that, or?
I think we have one part-time that can be a full-time person, right? And I don't know if we have any other labor that's there, but I think if it's already budgeted, and if we fill that position, then we're looking fine. We're looking good.
How soon can we start putting the pipe out?
That we're setting a timeline. We have to bid for the materials, so we have to put an RFP, but that doesn't mean we can't, start the process. And we'll have a timeline for you probably shortly on the 2 projects, the 20th Street and the Williford Park project.
We'd like to get the RFP for the 20th Street out in the next week or 2.
Well, for all the
For the 20th Street, yeah.
Where on 20th Street are we doing it?
So the project's gonna go from Popular to Orange on 20th Street, and what it's doing is replacing the old AC line to serve the development of Oak Elm and Orange.
Peter Pan? Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, an RFP is a request for proposal. You go out, you ask a company to provide you with the materials, and when you request it, they send it back to you and tell you what your cost is going to be. That's what they're talking about with the RFP.
Right, and that one for materials, we're actually going to do it like in a group for the rest of the year, so we can get the best discount on it. Because it's not worth it to us that every project that we do that's $25,000 and $1, basically over the $25,000 threshold, that we do an RFP, because the advertising alone can cost anywhere from $2,500 to $6,000 for the advertising. So we're going to try to aggregate those RFPs in large groups and look at material for the projects that we have for the year. So we should save a lot more money than is even listed here. Thank you very much.
Mr. Smith, on behalf of the people of this district, I would like to thank you for your due diligence with your staff providing these cost savings to us. It's going to mean a great deal for this district in the future, and we appreciate it very much.
Well, thank you. It's a team effort, and we've got a great staff here.
Thank you. Okay, moves to item 9, informational items under this. Number 1, legal update, counsel.
Yes, I just wanted to provide a quick update from an overall perspective on where we stand on some of our bond foreclosure activities. As the board knows, at the request of property owners, some property owners within the district, several years ago, the district issued bonds on property within the district to pay for certain infrastructure for development of that property. Those bonds were secured and paid for by special taxes on those properties at the request of those property owners. Thereafter, some of those property owners failed to pay those special taxes, and because the district covenanted in the bond issuance documents to the bondholders that they would pursue foreclosure if special taxes were not paid, the district did indeed pursue those foreclosure activities. The district is now in the process of pursuing those foreclosures, has obtained judgments in some cases, and is continuing those efforts. We will continue to keep you updated. Those litigations are ongoing, and in the course and scope of that, we're responding to certain document subpoenas and ancillary litigation brought between the parties whose properties were foreclosed. So that was just a brief update for you and for the public to understand what's going on with the district and the bond foreclosures. Are there any questions?
Thank you very much. Move to item 3, or item 2, interim general manager update.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, just to add to the bond, I think our bond attorney is doing a great job, and it keeps us on track and everything, and so that we're, if we weren't doing what we were doing, we could be in trouble in the future, but we're doing what agencies need to do to take care of bondholders, and everything's coming along really smooth. As an update, it looks like we're on board for Lahontan. I think we still don't have a date of either, it's either going to be November 4th or 5th.
November the 5th.
November 5th, so it just came out then. And so we're all set for that, and that should be the first part of the process. The next one is getting a number of things in place for us and getting a couple more paperwork things for Lahontan, and then we'll get a letter of applicability. And once we get that and have everything else in place, we should be able to turn on the tertiary water, which will not only bring in revenue, but also decrease our use of potable water. And that's all I have.
Any questions?
To be clear, will we, if they approve our permit on November 4th or 5th in Barstow at the Lahontan meeting, the next day we'll be able to turn the water on or not?
No.
And why
You have to wait for the letter of applicability. So there's a number of other things that have to be put in place before we get that.
Okay.
And that's not a hearing, that's just a signature by the executive of Lahontan.
Okay.
So we don't have to do another hearing, everything will be.
We just have to have the rest of the paperwork.
We have to get, and there's policies and procedures and things that we have to put in place, and that's all part of the Title 22 engineering report. Music, I got an accompaniment. So so we're just waiting for that, and we're on board with that. That's examples and things are already being done by our consultant GEI, and we should have all those in place. I'm guessing probably January, sometime at the beginning of January, if everything goes smoothly, and we'll be bringing more things in front of the board to approve so that we can move that forward.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, move to item 3, assistant general manager update. Don Allen.
Since our last meeting, the Public Works Department has worked on repairing 10 service lines in the community. They repaired main line on 25th Street, short section, 60 feet of main line had to be repaired. They replaced 5 ankle stops in the community. They did 552 lockoffs, which resulted in 552 lockoff tags, which resulted into 46 lockoffs. They continue to install the new master meters. We're at 2,356 meters installed to date. Out of the water bank, we had a diesel engine go bad on one of the wells for the water bank, so they removed and replaced that diesel engine and got that pump back up and running. And that's all I have.
Any questions for the assistant general manager?
Yeah, the main line on 25th, how old was that line? That's new, isn't it?
What?
Oh, within the last 20 years?
Yeah, it's probably in the 80s. What had happened is the storm drain went directly underneath it, and when they laid the main line, they laid it right on top of the storm drain, and the vibration from the water going through that main line on top of that concrete just wore a hole through it.
Okay, how far down, is it south of Rosamond Boulevard then?
South of Rosamond Boulevard, in front of the track, Summer Chase, or Summer Chase.
Might be at the end of the road.
Yes.
Okay.
Anyone else have any questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Allen. Calendar. Presenter will be Ronald Smith, interim general manager.
Yes, Mr. President. In talking with Director McKay and what some of the board members would like, and I think it should be standard practice in a lot of agencies, I have a $25,000 threshold that I can sign contracts for. Anything over that needs to go to the board unless it's been in the budget. And so what I'd like to do
is anything that's over $25,000 on a contract, even if it's in the budget, I'd like to put it on the consent calendar. And anything that's not in the budget, that's under $25,000, I could also contract for, but I'd like to, just for the sake of keeping you all informed, make a threshold of like $7,000 and put those on the consent calendar also. So that would just to reiterate, so anything that's under $25,000 but over $7,000 that I have the signing authority to, I'll put it on the consent calendar, and then anything over $25,000 that's in the budget will also be on the consent calendar, and just to keep everybody informed.
Any questions from the general manager?
The only thing I'd like to add to that, that's fine, I'd like a copy of that there so that we could read it.
Oh, it would be in, the contract would be part of the staff report, as all items in the consent calendar are.
But also, you're going to bring it back next time, would be for an action item then?
No, it would just be as long as I have a consensus from the council, I have direction,
Direction.
and that's what I'll do.